Welcome to Deep Thought. Everything is not a conspiracy. I had to really address that because, you know what, you got conspiracy on top of conspiracy. Like with this whole voting thing. Oh, it's a conspiracy. Oh, it's a conspiracy. And there's been a lot of conspiracies before that. Now, I gotta give, have an admission right here. Rom was a person big on conspiracy. Trust me, I can get into some deep stuff as far as some conspiracies. I was like, it's a CEO conspiracy. I mean, ever since I first heard the term Illuminati, I was like, oh, it must be the Illuminati, it must be this and that. And let's be clear, yes, there are conspiracies. There are conspiracies, but understand what the word conspiracy means. It means, what a general meaning is people conspiring, and they usually conspiring in secret. So there's always some stuff, and it's not always some nefarious thing. Like when you get the heads of some business group or something, and they got their plans, they don't announce it at first. Or if you look at politics, a lot of deals are still made behind closed doors, right? A lot of deals are still made behind closed doors. And there's always something. It could be, it could be two people, two women conspiring on how to rob a guy. He swiped right and stuff. And they say, and one says, okay, I'm going to bring you to this place. And there's a conspiracy to rob him. So, I mean, there's something there. But everything, when I'm talking about conspiracy, like a lot of general things that happen publicly ain't necessarily a conspiracy. Because first of all, if you even talking about it, how's that a conspiracy? Conspiracy is a secret. They are secret plans, And people say, well, there was been a plan all this time. It's like, no. See, here's the problem. Here's the problem. A lot of people think everything that happens has something conscious behind it. Not necessarily. Some things do, but a lot of things don't. A lot of things happen organically. A lot of things happen organically. A lot of movements happen organically. Like, let me use that term movement. Like, you might have people going in a certain direction, and it doesn't have to do with, like, somebody say, okay, I got a plan, I'm going to spring it, I'm going to use that propaganda. Though people do try. But sometimes you got a bunch of people, they just think the same way. And what happened was some person emerged from it all and decided to take control of it. I'll give you an example. And this is something I read in the autobiography of Malcolm X about the March on Washington. He had said people were planning on just coming to D.C. anyway and just causing disruption. But then Martin Luther King and other civil rights leaders were brought in to kind of get it under control. Now, you might say there might have been a conspiracy there to get it under control, but the whole thing started organically. Some things just happen. It ain't that deep. Seriously, a lot of stuff ain't that deep. It ain't like somebody got some plan and they want to do this. No, stuff just happens. There's a lot of stuff that's just going to happen by nature. Ain't nobody planned. Now, there are some people who might want to act like they planning something. Well, really, they ain't. Because even, the elites and everything, they don't really have control over what happens. The herd goes where it wants to go. The most the elite can do is set up fences. That's the most they can do. They can't generate stuff, and they can put propaganda out there. And, people, a lot of people will stay in those fences. But even that, if you really look at it, is not a conspiracy. This is why. You can look it up. You can look it up. You can actually see it. Like, the information is out there. A true conspiracy, nobody's hearing about it. The true conspiracies that are happening, I probably couldn't discuss it because a lot of true conspiracies behind closed doors. A lot of stuff happens. Indeed, there's a lot of stuff, a lot of things that go on that's happening. It's not necessarily a conspiracy, but it's just people don't know where to look. But sometimes stuff can be right there, right? But what the problem is, you get a lot of people, they want to feel like there's a conscious hand for every little thing. There's a conscious hand doing it. But if you remember, I talked about looking at things organically. If you get past like what's written down and theories and all of that, and just pay attention to how people behave, all of a sudden stuff becomes easier to see. And you're like, well, you know what? That was going to happen anyway. Regardless of somebody trying to frame it or control it, that's going to happen by nature. I'm going to tell you what, the most prevalent law is nature. Nature's still going to control stuff. People still going to do stuff. People still going to find a way. Like you could say there's a conspiracy to prevent certain groups of people from mating successfully. Nature's still going to come through. Nature's still going to come through. Or to get people not to do stuff. Now, people could try, but nature's still going to do that. You know? It's still going to happen. And my point is, sometimes, no matter what somebody says, sometimes it just happens. People just made a decision to do, act in a certain way. And, yes, you have some forces out there to influence it, but ultimately people would make their own choice. It's a lot of stuff. Like, everything ain't a conspiracy. Like I said, at the beginning, I'm coming from this as somebody who was big on conspiracies. I was big. Y'all don't know. Shoot, I be breaking down all this stuff, but I'm going to tell you what happened with me. And this is part of my own growth. As I always say, I'm not on top of a mountain. I've had to grow. And that's something I had to grow past because I was like, wait a minute. I started looking at little things. I ain't going to get into some specific things, but I started looking at stuff and I just said, nah, there ain't no conspiracy. People just going to act that way. Right? Or ain't no big deal. Right? In fact, I'm going to tell y'all something. Sometimes you just got to know what's going on, right? Sometimes people see a conspiracy. They just don't really know the process. I'll give you an example. I had mentioned before I had worked at Justice, right? Justice Department, right? Now, I remember I had left and everything, and I was working as a journalist, and I was actually spent all day. It was a protest involving a prominent political prisoner. Well, I'll give the prisoner's name. It was Mumia Abu Jamal, right? And it was interesting because I was on more the protester side, covering it from that side. And I specifically remember we went to the Department of Justice right outside and everything. And, to have a supposed meeting, right? Now, this was an interesting thing. But it was a woman there, and she was kind of on that conspiracy thing. And she was like, yeah, they're going to do that, they're going to do this. And I'm thinking to myself, no, I know how they operate in there. No, they ain't doing all that. Or talking about let us in and all that. And I was like, oh, they already let some people in. And I already knew how the meeting was going to go because I had some insiders in there, right? But I was thinking about that, and that was the thing that had me thinking. It's like a lot of people think they know what's going on, but they don't. And they'll say, well, it's a conspiracy. They doing this. Because the thing is with conspiracies, when people get into them, what'll happen is somebody will put out some information, but then somebody will hear it, but then they'll add their 2 cents. And then other people add stuff, and then people not questioning where the information came from to begin with. And in fact, there's some stuff I don't even feel like getting. I don't feel like getting any flack from this particular group, but there's a major one now. But people never ask, where does the original information come from? But that's how powerful it is. And you got to remember something else too with this whole conspiracies or like that. With social media now, it's easier for somebody to manipulate something. It's extremely easy, and they'll get people caught up. In fact, it represents a danger. Really, it represents a danger because somebody could spread something and cause something where it can cause like drama. It could cause physical harm, and so it's very important. And like I said, I'm gonna say it for the 3rd time. I was that person who was into all of that. Now, like I said, I've done enough study. They exist. They still exist. But if you hearing about it publicly, it probably ain't. And then there's a lot of misinformation, disinformation. And you got some malicious people out there, they'll just start something just to be started. But that's the main thing to understand, you know? Everything is not a conspiracy. Everything is. And I would say this, when you find some information or hear about it, I would say this, because I say everything isn't, but then there's some nefarious stuff out there. Research it. Seriously, research it. Like, do research. Research it. Don't just go off of like somebody you read online or you heard a video. Or even if they present themselves as an authority, still research it. Even if they saying, oh, no, this don't exist, research that. Seriously, that's what you need to do. Seriously, research it. And it's a deep hole. It's tough because it takes some serious research, but whenever you hear something, don't accept anything. Even the stuff I talk about, I always say research it. Even on my men's channel, I say go out and try what I'm saying. Never accept anything, good or bad, without researching it, right? Because everything ain't that deep. Everything ain't a conspiracy. Even some stuff people talking about might not be a bad thing if you research it. Seriously. And I've been there before. Research it, jump into it, and don't be afraid of what you find and that you might have to change your mind on some things. All right? So anyway, that's all I got for now. I'll talk to y'all. Peace and blessings.